All right, everyone. Thank you for joining the Farsight Spotlight, where we cover the latest and the greatest every week. And now remember, everybody, some people have written some snarky comments on our forums and things like that about wanting the entire Spotlight to be up as a recorded video on Sunday. But now listen, everybody, we typically have two topics that we want to talk about. And each topic is sort of a headliner, meaning we really want each topic to be considered on its own merits. And so we break up the video recording of the Spotlight into two videos. Now you're seeing the whole thing right now as a live stream. But when we record it and we put it up as a recording, we want the first half to be separate from the second half because it's really two distinct topics, and we don't want the second half to be buried inside the first half and everyone listening to the first half and not listening to the second half. So on Sunday night is when we put up the first half, which will be like a couple hours after this live stream is over. And then on Wednesday night, we put up the second half. Now, we didn't do this last Wednesday, but heck, it was New Year's. We didn't expect people to be tuning in on us rather than New Year's. So anyway, but typically that's what happens, Sunday and Wednesday, okay? And also we do a lot of editing. We improve the sound, we edit the thing to make it look nice, and it's better, it's good. So just be patient with us as we do each one. But today we're doing two topics, and the first topic is about the UAPs, or UFOs. They're back. So we're going to be talking about that. And then the second topic is talking about forecasting the future. You have to really understand what's involved with forecasting the future. All right. Let's start with the UAPs, the UFOs. Lots of things have been happening, and people in Congress, if you're watching the news, are even talking about it looks like somebody has invented a new means of propulsion. We're talking about gravitics, or gravity-based propulsion systems. So people are starting to get used to the idea that the U.S. and possibly China has new methods of propulsion that they've been keeping secret, and that these are gravitic devices, or devices that work on the basis of gravity. And that's what some of the drones are about. Now, let's talk about the UAPs. As predicted, if you watched my last live stream, we were expecting that there would be a bit of a lull in the UAP UFO phenomena that's going around worldwide during the holiday season. And I gave you the reason for it. I said, if I was the ETs and I was trying to get everybody to notice us, I wouldn't be going on stage with an empty audience. I wouldn't be in a situation where I was talking and trying to show people us and try to gather your attention when in fact the holidays were going on. And basically a lot of countries basically shut down during the holidays, and people aren't going outside looking for UFOs. They're doing holiday stuff, and it doesn't really end till a couple days after New Year's. And that's indeed what happened. There seemed to be a little bit of a lull. But that's all changed, and the UAPs and UFOs are back as predicted right after the holidays. Now, and now people are talking about some of these UAPs being human-made as compared with all ET-made, and that's good. That's what we were saying too, that there is a mixture of human-made and ET-made. And the human-made ones are the ones that are using this new technology. They have really wanted to keep this new technology secret. They did not want people to know about this new technology because it's an open admission that the entire extraterrestrial phenomenon is real. But at this point, it's a cat is out of the bag type of a situation. Everyone sort of knows that the UAPs, UFOs, the extraterrestrials is a real thing. Even though the government isn't officially acknowledging it, it's an open secret at this point. So they're starting to say, well, what the heck? What do we lose? Some of those anti-gravity or gravitics devices are apparently owned by the United States government, and some of them apparently are owned by China. So there's these gravitic devices, or that's what people are calling these drones. that are flying about. In addition, there are authentic extraterrestrial drones as well that are being operated by the good guys. That means my side of the extraterrestrials, which told you in advance on November 13th. We had our board meeting. They told us, it was recorded. We published it on November 15th, November 18th. Worldwide, it exploded with the UAPs, UFOs, right on schedule. And our last board meeting that happened in December, they said the next upgrade is some larger ships. And so after the holidays, this is the time that you should start expecting them. So we're still waiting for the larger ships. Now, we're not talking about ships the size of California. They do exist. They have huge ships on both sides, the good ETs and the bad ETs. But we're not expecting those. We're expecting larger than drone ships. So ones that you can clearly see, that's not a drone. That's big. That type of a phenomenon. So we're sort of waiting for that to happen. In addition, there's something else happening. There is apparently now a direct effort to keep the UAP, UFO, drone type situation out of the news. So it's not just that there was a lull in the sightings during the holiday season, but there appears to be a direct censorship effort going on to simply keep it out of the news. So people are citing them and seeing them now in large numbers, but they're trying to hold off how much of that is publicized. It's like you can have something happen, but if no one hears about it, then it's all good, right? That type of thing. However, the extraterrestrials do know what's going on, and so they're going to up the ante and make it so that that doesn't work. But that's a bit of an issue. Now, the other thing is that these drones, if some of them are human-made and some of them are, if that comes out, well, that's obvious proof that the extraterrestrials exist, because otherwise, where did we get the technology to do that? Where did the U.S. get it? Where did China get it? And things like that. So the drones that are human-made that also have no heat signature, they have no transponder, and they fly over restricted airspace at will, well, those can be human-made or ET-made. However, there's a big thing going on right now. There is a new law that's been passed in some states, especially in the state of New Jersey, forbidding the drones, so-called drones, those things from flying overhead. They're forbidden now by law. And it hasn't done a thing. The things are flying all over any place. No one's respecting the law. It's like the old Rodney Dangerfield, the comedian. Some of you may be too young to remember Rodney Dangerfield, but he was hilarious. And he said, I get no respect. I get no respect. Anyway, so they passed these laws forbidding these drones from flying overhead. Then a holiday season ends, and what do? They fly right overhead. They were disobeying restricted airspace stuff from the very beginning. What do you think the drones over the military bases were all about? That was totally restricted airspace. Over Washington, D.C., those are restricted airspace. The ETs do not recognize restricted airspace. You can't just say you're not allowed to do that. Like, what? It's sort of comical. But anyway, it happened. But it's actually a very good thing that people can see that, that these things are not obeying the law, so to speak. I mean, other aspects of the law are the same. I mean, according to law, every large ship, drone, or anything like that, anything larger than a small DJI thing, must have a transponder, and they don't have transponders. Of course, they don't have heat signatures either. That's sort of a violation of physics. They fly over restricted airspace. So, there's a lot of sort of laws that are being broken. Okay, so now we're waiting for the larger ships to start approaching, and we're expecting that to happen momentarily soon. Okay? All right, I have some of my notes here to make sure I don't forget anything that I'm supposed to be talking about today. Now, friends, I have something to tell you that's super, super big. Like, you heard it from me first. We are 5 days in to 2025. Yes, you heard it from me first. 5 days in. It's okay, it's a joke. My jokes aren't the best sometimes. But 5 days into 2025, and we've already had major UAP sightings and 2 major events, violent events, one in Las Vegas and one in New Orleans. And like heck, folks, and those things happened like not even today. They just happened a couple of days into 2000. So 2025 is not going to be a quiet year. Friends, spoiler alert, 2025 is not going to be a quiet year. So we've had ongoing UAP stuff, major violent events happening, and there's stuff about those violent events that's going to be coming out more and more. Sean Ryan and his podcast had something about that, it was just published. And if any of you haven't followed Sean Ryan's podcast, it's a good podcast to follow on YouTube. So clearly 2025 is heating up. And our audience really needs to watch all of the Farsight projects that come out on a regular basis, including the deep news. Now look, folks, let me be honest. I'm not boasting, but I'm just telling you the truth. There's no place you can get this stuff from except Farsight. They have people doing remote viewing all over the place, but no one's doing these full public projects like this. And no one's doing it at the level that we're doing these on a regular basis all the time and then showing you our raw data. We're not trying to convince you that XYZ is going to happen. We're trying to say these are our data and these are what the data seem to suggest. Perhaps you have a different view. What do you think? And so that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to show you. What we are trying to convince you is that the remote viewing was done under scientifically defensible conditions. And since we show you the target reveals, it's obvious that the remote viewer didn't know what the target was, but they described it perfectly. So it's very convincing if you just watch everything. So this is really important. 2025 is going to be big. I'm not talking about little big. I'm talking about big. And you need a front row seat. And we're giving you sort of that right in your face type of thing. I have a big thing to tell you. This is like super secret. Well, it's not too secret, but it's super big. And you heard from me first. We've got 2 weeks before Donald Trump gets inaugurated. Okay, my jokes aren't the best. It's not a big secret, but it's 2 weeks. Now, that means the Biden administration is in power for 2 more weeks. So I don't know what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks. However, this is the Democratic side's last chance to set things up for what's going to happen after the inauguration, after President Trump becomes president again. So we have 2 options. It's not just what the Biden administration and the Democratic side is going to do to set things up, but it's also like, what is everybody else going to be doing? Like these 2 violent incidents that happened in New Orleans and then also in Las Vegas. Like, is it coincidence that it happened in January, right before a new president takes over? And are there other people around the country and the world sort of taking note about these types of things? So what I'm suggesting is that the next 2 weeks is something that we should be looking at carefully. And we also have the UAP stuff that's cranking up. And so you also want to be able to look out and see. By the way, the drones are showing up again, and I'm seeing, I don't know if you're seeing them, but I normally follow these things on Instagram feeds. And I subscribe to a bunch of Instagram feeds where those things are being recorded and put up there, and they're often placed on Twitter, and then they're put in Instagram. And they're showing up all over the place, like all over the place. And so, you should be not depending on the mainstream news to give you this information, because there is an authentic censorship drive going on right now to keep that stuff off the home pages. They don't want people to be seeing it on the news. So if you sort of, if you sort of follow these other feeds, then you can see more of what's actually going on. So that's basically it. 2025 is a big year, and it started off with a bang. We're going to be having our next ET board meeting pretty soon, and then we'll publish it right after that. And when it does happen, they're going to be telling us what's the next step. So we're both waiting for the board meeting to happen and watching the events that are going on, and we're keeping a lookout for the larger ships. Again, not the super major ships that the size of California. They have bigger ships even than that, but we're not talking about that. It's not going to be like Independence Day where the big ship comes in like that. But clearly they're going to be bigger than the smaller drones, so that, that's not like a military drone type of a thing. And a lot of the ships are very clearly extraterrestrial type ships. They are extraterrestrial ships, a lot of them. And you can often tell by the way they fly, especially with the tremendously erratic movements. And sometimes it's sort of hard to it's hard to tell. The human-made drones tend to be more systematic in terms of the way they're flying. The ET drones zip around and do right angles and quick movements and things like that. Now, there's one more thing. And this is going to sort of be a segue into our next segment of the Spotlight. And that is that the actual the drone activity that you're actually seeing is how can I say this in a sort of a diplomatic way? It's activity that really has a very clear explanation for it that a lot of people are missing. And that is that when we say that the drone activity is going to be increasing and has been increasing, then you should be asking why, especially why the human-made drones are out there. Now, I can't prove this, although I am certain it's true. But I've got to ask all of you to put two and two together to connect the dots. We came up with a lot of information, remote viewing information, suggesting that the time period from December through March is going to be extremely volatile, including some domestic U.S. military chaos going on as well. Now, I'm going to be covering some of this in the stuff with regard to the forecasting of future events. But you have to ask, why did the drones come out just at this point? Clearly, some of them are military drones using these gravitic, transportation devices or propulsion system devices. But why then? They're looking for something. You don't have drones flying out all over the place, covering a lot of territory, especially over the eastern United States, if they're not looking for something. Our remote viewing results clearly indicated that the dominant military engagement was going to be happening, domestic military engagement was going to be happening in the eastern United States. That was where the big turmoil was going to happen. And the drones came out and are searching the domestic United States, especially the eastern coast of the United States, like they're sifting through sand. I mean, they're like looking at everything. They're flying all over the place. They're clearly searching for something. That is the only reason you send drones up in situations like that. They're not out there for a holiday stroll. They're looking for something, and they're coming in amazing numbers. So part of it is ET drones, but also part of it is human-made drones that are using ET tech. And believe me, trust me on this one, the U.S. government would never show those drones to the public unless it was desperate, unless it absolutely needed. The one thing it wants more than anything else is to keep that whole reverse engineering of ET tech secret. They do not want people to know about it. Only something really major, like a threatened domestic upheaval, would cause them to bring that stuff out. My suggestion, and you might even say my belief, the way I'm looking at it, is it's not a coincidence. I do know for an absolute fact, and I can't prove this to you obviously, but I do know that the American intelligence operations agencies look at our stuff really closely. They take it very seriously and they look at it closely. No, they do not communicate with us. They do not say, good job. They do not talk to us about it. They do not ask us to do anything like that. But I have good reasons for which I cannot go into that I do know they watch it. Now, we don't have like millions of subscribers yet. Oh, that's going to change. We are going to have that at some point. But I guarantee you, if we put something up, they investigate. They have their own ways of investigating. They use tech to investigate these things. But when we put something up and say something's coming, trust me on this, lights go off, in the intelligence circles, and they look at it, they investigate, they check it out, and they use all their normal intelligence stuff to look to see if there's any evidence of that, and they go deep. I know they take what we do seriously, so when we say something's going to happen, they definitely don't do what a lot of other people do. I'll see, and I'll wait and see if that happens. They don't do that. They take it seriously and they put it to the front burner. And the fact that these drones came out using clearly ET tech and are searching for this stuff, they're searching for something. In my view, it's not a coincidence. So try to be smart about this. Put two and two together. We make a prediction that something's going to happen, and absolutely something unprecedented happens with these drones coming out all over the place. There's got to be a reason. It's not for nothing. And do you see anything else that happened in the world that would give a reason for the U.S. to send out all these drones? Did anybody do anything? Did anybody say there's going to be a new type of party coming out, a Hollywood party or something? Nothing's like our announcements, our descriptions of our remote viewing results are the only things that said something was going to happen like this. And the drone coverage on the eastern United States has been thoroughly systematic and complete, exactly on the time basis that we did it, that we said it was going to happen. Mind you, we said it was going to happen from the December to March area. After this, the third and fourth week of November is when it started, and it lasted right through December, really big. Then there was a pause during the holiday season, and the ETs were largely involved with the pause because, why do a show? Our side, the good ETs, are trying to get your attention. So they're not going to do this if nobody's watching. So they waited till after the holidays, and now it is after the holidays and so on. All right, now we're going to go into the second segment of the Farsight Spotlight. So if you're watching this as a recording, the first segment, you have to then wait a couple days, and on Wednesday the second segment comes out, but you're going to see it if you're watching it as a live stream right now.